Hello and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman and today I'm going to be taking you through part 4 of my mystery quilt, which is the Poinsettias in the Forest. You can see here on the wall I have a part of the wall quilt finished. I have the top border and the bottom border finished. We worked on borders and learning how to use those, piece those last week. Today I'm going to be putting the 2 side borders on, but I'm waiting to do that until I have the 4 corner blocks done. And today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make the corner blocks, and they are the small poinsettia corner blocks. So let's see how this is done. So definitely go to the description box below the video here and grab this PDF. You'll want this PDF of instructions. It's 2 pages. It will show you how to put together the small poinsettia blocks. And as you can see on here, the first week, week number 1, we learned how to make the large poinsettia block, which was this part of the center of the quilt, and these large tree blocks were part of the center of the quilt. And then these are the border blocks. These are encircling the entire quilt, and then these 4 corner blocks is what we're going to be working on today. So it gives you the instructions on what you need to pull and cut from your scrap stash. If you're using scraps or if you're using yardage, you can simply cut what is required from your yardage. So as a review of what I have cut, I've cut 16 of the 2.5 inch squares. I've cut 8 of the 1.5 inch squares, and these are in red. That's going to be my poinsettia. And then of the light background fabric, I've cut 32 1.5 by 2.5 inch rectangles. So these are the little rectangles. 16 of them are going to be snowballed with the dark green light, or 1.5 inch squares. And 16 of them are going to be plain, just the rectangles. And so I've got that, a total of 32 of those. I've cut a total of 16 of the light background 1.5 inch squares because they are snowballing the poinsettias. I've cut 8 of the 1.5 inch medium green, and they are going to be placed in the corner, or 2 of the corners of the block. And then the dark green, I've cut 16 of those, and they are going to be snowballing these rectangles here. Many of you are actually using your scraps, so you can easily pull 2.5 inch scraps for this, 1.5 inch scraps for all of these. But on the rectangles, what you can simply do is pull 3 inch squares, cut them in half, and then trim off a 1/2 inch, and then you'll have 2 of your rectangles, which will measure 1.5 wide by 2.5 long. So that's an option for you if you want to use your scrap stash. Many of you are doing that. Some of you are using yardage, as I'm doing for my Christmas quilt. You can do whatever you'd like. That's the fun of this class. So now I'm going to share with you how I've put these together. The first thing we're going to do in the instructions is to snowball the poinsettia blossoms. And to do that, you're simply going to grab a 1.5 inch light background square and one of your 2.5 inch squares for your poinsettia flower. And you're going to draw a diagonal line. I've drawn mine with an ink pen. Hopefully you can see that well enough. You're going to draw from corner to corner, and you're going to place that square right sides together with your flower fabric, or your poinsettia fabric. And then you're going to stitch on that line. What I like to do when I snowball, I like to stitch just to the inside, or the outside of that, I should say, closest to that outer corner. And the reason that I do that, I'll stitch right on the outside of that, is so that when I fold this back, then it allows for the turn of fabric, and I'm not eating away at the square, because when I square this up, I want it to square up to exactly 2.5 inches. So that's why I do that, and I'll just stitch right on that on the side there of that drawn line, closest to this outer corner. Then you're simply going to, once it's sewn, you're going to cut across that and open it up. And what I like to do, as you'll see here on mine, I pressed mine open. They just laid so much nicer that way. So I just pressed mine open and then square up each of those to 2.5 inches. Every one of these has to be 2.5 inches. So you're going to go through and snowball all of your poinsettia squares and get that done. The next thing you're going to do is snowball all of your rectangles. So let's see how that's going to be done. No, that was not correct. You are not going to snowball all of your rectangles. You're going to only snowball 16 of them. The remaining 16 will just remain intact like that. So only 16 of your rectangles are going to be snowballed. And when you do snowball a rectangle, it's very important that you snowball each and every one the same way. So I've laid all of mine like this, and I have the line drawn from the upper corner down to the bottom here. So it's up in the center here of the center of that rectangle down to the bottom. Every one will be snowballed identically. And then you'll flip it open, you'll trim away the excess, flip it open after you've sewn it so that each of these is snowballed going in that very same direction. If you accidentally turn this around and stitch this way, then this is going to be a mirror image of this one, and that's not what you want. So make sure that as you're snowballing everything correctly. So again, just stitch to this side of that line, just to that side of it, closest to this side. Trim the excess fabric away, turn it and press it. And again, what I did with mine, I'll move this out of the way here. I pressed it open. It just lays much nicer, so I've pressed it open. And then make sure that you square these up to 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So you're going to have 16 that look like this, and you're going to have 16 rectangles that look like that. So that is the piecing part of each of these little elements. Then the rest of it is just simply putting it together, and I have it all laid out here on this square, this rotary mat. So you'll see you're putting it together in rows, and each row has a corner block out in the corner. One is red, one is the medium green in my case. Yours could be really scrappy, yours could be different colors. But in my case, and in the case of the printout, you'll see I'm using red and green. Just substitute whatever colors you're using in fabric. So I've got 2 green, 2 red. I have a rectangle and then a snowballed rectangle. And make sure those are oriented all the way around that poinsettia correctly. They're forming the little leaves on the poinsettia. And then make sure also that your poinsettias are oriented properly. As you look at this, the little white snowball is going in a particular direction. Make sure that you follow the layout of the PDF so that everything gets in there properly. And I'm going to go ahead and web my block together. I have a video out on my channel that teaches you how to web. I simply start up in the left corner. I'm going to flip this one over here, start sewing from there down, bring the next one up and flip this on top of it, sew from there down, and just keep doing that until this whole row on this side is stitched and it's webbed together with a thread. Then I'll come back over and grab these others. So pretend this row here is sewn, and you just come back over and grab the third row and put it on there and start webbing all the way down and then down. I like to do that because everything stays in order. Everything stays in the proper orientation, so I do like to web my blocks. And I'm going to link that how to web your block and how to web your quilt video in the description box below. If you have any questions on that, please be sure to watch that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this. You need to make 4 of these blocks, and then I'm going to bring it back to the tabletop and show you what it looks like. So as you see, I have webbed the columns together. They're all connected with a row of stitching there. Now I'm going to web the rows. I'm going to piece the rows together. I'm simply going to fold them down, nest all of the seam allowances, and sew them one by one. It's a really simple way to get everything sewn together and it stays oriented in the proper position. Here's the little block. I have pressed it and squared it up to 6.5 inches. Every block needs to be squared up to 6.5 so that it will match the width of your border. And we're going to be making 4 of these, and we're going to sew one of these blocks on each side of 2 of the borders, and then we're able to attach those borders to the opposite ends of our quilt, and the inside of the quilt will be completely done except for the outside red border. When I did the webbing of these, I finger pressed everything. I was finger pressing them this direction as I was going, and then I pressed everything at the iron in this direction, all the rows pressed up. So whatever works for you, so that the block will lay flat. You want the block to lay nice and flat. And I did press open my snowballed seams. As you saw, those snowballed seams were pressed open. And if you want to press all of your seam allowances open, that's wonderful. Go ahead and do that. I did nest mine, as you saw in the video. But make 4 of these blocks, and then we're going to get to the point of attaching them to our tree borders. I have all 4 of my blocks finished, and now we are going to attach them to each end of the last 2 borders. So here's one of my borders. I have it folded here so it fits on the tabletop. And then I have another one off to the side. And I'll be sewing these on each side. First of all, before I sew them on, I'm going to verify which direction my reds need to be going on this. So I'm going to check that out, make sure that all my diagonals are going in the same direction. I made that mistake a couple weeks ago when I put the quilt together. I realized that I had put the center of it together without making sure that my reds were all in the same diagonal. So I'm going to verify that. I'll be right back. I just placed this tree border up against the side of the quilt that's hanging on the wall, and I made sure that the reds are going in a diagonal this way. So on this side of my tree border, the diagonals are going this direction, and on this side, the diagonals are going this direction. So just verify. Maybe you put your center of your quilt together differently. Doesn't matter. It's your quilt. Have fun and enjoy. But I just wanted to make sure that I had my red squares going in the right direction. To me, they were the most prominent, and I just wanted to make sure that my diagonals were going properly through the entire quilt. I have both of the last 2 borders are ready. I've got the poinsettia corner blocks sewn on each side of the last 2 borders. I have them folded here so that you can see them. Now I'm going to attach them to the quilt. Make sure that your tree trunks are facing the inside of the quilt so that the points of the trees all the way around the outside border are facing the outside of the quilt. And just follow the diagram of the picture here in your PDF. Make sure you follow that. And then after I get those attached, I'll take a picture of that so you can see it. And then the last thing we're going to do is add the outside border. And the directions are in here. It's very, very simple. You're going to be cutting 2. In my case, I'm going to cut red. I'm going to cut 2 red borders that are 1.5 inches by 50.5 inches. And then I'm going to cut 2 of them that are 1.5 inches by 52.5 inches. And I'm going to attach them on opposite sides, just like you do regular borders. So I'm going to get that done here in a minute, and you'll get to see the whole thing. So I'm getting excited. We're so close to the end. Here is the reveal of the Poinsettias in the Forest Mystery Quilt for 2023. I just love it. I can't wait to get it quilted. I need to get it steamed. I just quickly threw it up there on the wall so that you could see a complete look at the entire quilt. But don't forget to pull that PDF from below, and also make sure that if you need a review on any of the blocks, go back to parts 1 and 2. They cover both the poinsettia and the tree block very clearly. Part 3 and 4 I just did a review because they're basically the same blocks. They're just done smaller for the border. And I look forward to seeing all of your quilt tops pieced and emailed to me by November 15. I'd love to be able to put together a video of my students' mystery quilt tops that you've created. So please don't forget to get them pieced. You don't have to have it quilted, but just get it pieced and get it back to me, and I'll include in fact, if you look at the PDF on page 2, you'll see my email address there. Make sure you email a picture of your finished mystery quilt to me so I can get that loaded. I'd love to have a YouTube of all of your quilts as well. So this has been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much for joining me for my Fall 2023 mystery quilt, Poinsettias in the Forest. So until next time, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Lori Dickman. This is Quilting with Lori. We'll see you soon, and happy quilting.